Hey everybody, it's Chris, and today on Ask Me Anything, we've got some very lovely ladies and Aaron joining us to ask the questions that you guys have posted on YouTube and wherever else we can find them. And of course, we're going to answer your questions, so stick around. Let me try this again.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Yeah.
I design sandwiches. My name is Jose Caballero, and I talk about the business of design. I talk about a lot of stuff.
My name is Chris Doe, and I talk about the business of design.
At the center of this operating system, it's about understanding.
Jose, can we just tell them what the show title is?
I hate you, dude.
You are watching The Process.
Do we listen again?
Can we get a shot of the live audience? There we are. What are you guys doing? Is there something on the floor?
There was no countdown.
You need to vomit?
You just went to one.
You're all ready. Jaime, you all right?
I'm all right.
Okay.
I clapped on time.
Excellent. Okay, you're like all very tight-lipped there. All right, guys, let's start it up. Who wants to ask the first question? Just throw it out there.
Amy.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm a student. I'm studying motion graphics. That's what I want to do
This is a
professionally.
totally hypothetical?
Yes, totally hypothetical.
Hypothetically speaking, if you're a Korean girl and...
Fake Korean.
All right, okay.
Okay, so I know I'm going to be working for other people and other directors. How important do you think it is to make time for personal work and continuing to develop my voice as an individual? And is that going to get me any further professionally?
Do you see that there's a difference between the stuff that you love to do and the stuff that you want to get paid money to do? I mean, do you guys feel that way? I mean, it's a question that's thrown out to the group, and I think this is a common question. So first of all, thank you for asking that question.
I feel like there are a lot of things I like to do, and I don't feel like anyone's going to pay me money to do them.
Can you give me an example?
I can give you a lot of examples, but I guess like related to art specifically.
Hey, this is a PG-13 show. My son watches this show. Holy cow, we're gonna go there. You gonna bring up Anime Expo again?
No,
is that what we're talking about?
No.
PG-13.
Told the one.
Go ahead.
All right.
Nobody's
Well,
watching the show
like,
anyways.
For example, editorials. Like Maggie and I were talking about it, and basically she wants to do editorials, but you know, you're saying you're getting what, like $50 an illustration?
I'm just like a few hundred. Not enough to be able to live.
Yeah, and it's not consistent, but it's something like you like doing. Conversely, like she could go into a studio and make a lot more, but she doesn't know if she'd like that. And is that what you're saying about motion? Like this person doesn't actually want to do motion?
I don't know. No, this hypothetical person does want to do motion, but they also have like a lot of personal interests, creative outlets that make them happy. And I feel like right now it's really hard to make time to do those extra things in addition to what's required of me professionally. So
Right.
Is it worth making the extra time? And if you think it's worth it, you know, are those personal projects going to help me out professionally at all?
Okay, so let me try and summarize because there's a lot of different things going on. It sounds to me like you want a vacation from your vacation, right? Because we all pick design. It's the pursuit of one of our passions, so I find it kind of disheartening to hear that what you chose to do in your free time isn't really what you're getting to do. So something is wrong there. We want to try to line up your hobbies, what you would like to do in your spare time, to be your profession so that you can get paid to do that. Now here's the dilemma, and I see this a lot. This distinction that I make in my mind between what an artist is and what an artist does and what a designer does, and they're very different to me. And so maybe that's a little bit of what I'm hearing. An artist is you make work for yourself, you share your point of view, there's no client, and that's why it's so fulfilling for you. You just get to make whatever it is that you want to make. And I love that. But the problem is some designers think and act like they're artists. They're imposing their tastes, their sensibilities, and their point of view in the world, and then aren't really asking for feedback. They don't want feedback, they don't want any criticism. So we kind of have to separate that. So let's say you're the artist persona and you want to be an artist. Great. You don't even really need to go to school unless you need to just learn how to make stuff. And once you have enough, I say, go get a studio, make paintings, sculptures, whatever it is you love to do, little doodles and illustrations, live very modestly, and work your way up the gallery cycle, however that world works, and get exposure as much as you can, and slowly, over time, build up the value of the work that you create. So Maggie, you're an illustrator, you have really beautiful illustrations. Now, where can people go and see your work on Instagram? What's your Instagram?
McFinty.
What?
My Instagram handle?
Yeah.
Oh, McMinty.
How do you spell that?
McMintea.
Okay, because you're Irish. Mick Minty. That's awesome. Okay, Mick Minty. So you do these wonderful illustrations. So your path should be, what pieces of work can I create that people will pay me lots of money for? And that's a separate path. So we all understand what it is to be an artist, right? You work for yourself, and it's your perspective into the world. You can be Damien Hirst. You can be anybody you want to be, and just make it for yourself. And hopefully a big enough following likes the work, and that's great. One of the great things about this right now is that, again, the barriers to becoming a fine artist and being appreciated as one is eroding, because it used to be art critics and gallery owners that control the gates as to who they anoint as being great. Now you can be a street artist and gain notoriety and following, just like guys like Banksy and Shepard Fairey, and they became artists. And there's a much greater acceptance for illustrators who transition into becoming fine artists. The illustrator is a fine artist. All right, so now we're going to separate that conversation, because now we're talking about getting paid for a living to do a job, and it is still a job. I find great pleasure in defining what I love to do as solving someone's problem to help them. I look at myself as a coach, a therapist, an advisor, or something like that. I happen to speak in the language of design, but I'm able to help those people out. So that's where I get great fulfillment. So if I'm solving my problem, the way I define my purpose and my passion, it doesn't really help anybody. But if I help a client reach a goal, or as I've noted before, one of my clients said, for the first time in my life, you've given me a brand that reflects how I feel inside, but have never been able to articulate to anybody. You actually created something that far exceeded that. That makes me happy to help that person along their way, because their exterior, their brand, is something that represents them. And now they can feel proud to share this with people and to brag about it, that now those two things are in alignment. So the separation of the two. Now, Jaime, you're talking about personal work, so maybe these are things that you're talking about, experimentation, maybe new media or subject matter that's maybe too dark or too strange to be commercial. I love that idea. So these are things you do on your own time, but what I'd try to suggest for you to do is to work in an industry where that's as close to what you love to do in your own time, and so there's not that separation. Mm-hmm. The fragment itself, that's like where we get all messed up. So we're not happy when we're getting paid, and we're not happy when we're just doing our own thing. Let's try and get those things in alignment and to solidify those fragments. There were a couple other things out of that. I can't remember because I didn't write every single thing down. Did I tackle that topic okay for you? How about you two ladies? Raising your value. Like, you threw in a curveball there. That wasn't really central to what Jaime was saying. If you're okay, then we can move on to the other question, is how do you increase the value of your work over time, which is what I heard.
Yeah, that's the one I'm interested in.
All right. So here's how we have to look at the marketplace. The market is willing to pay a certain dollar amount for a piece of artwork. And it's determined by a couple of things, I think. Okay. First and foremost, it's based on your popularity as a person, how scarce the work is. Okay, so let's just assume those things are locked and things that you're going to work on over time to make your profile higher in the art world and to make your work more scarce. But people buy prints based on a couple of things. Size. So think about size first of all. People will pay more money for a larger print. That's guaranteed, right? Because you just equate that as, you know what, that's a big amount of space that I'm going to cover in my home, my gallery, my studio, and it's just going to be worth more. It could be the exact same amount of effort that you put into it. So size is a big deal. The other thing is, how is it printed? What kind of reproduction is this? Speaking personally, silk screens, high-end lithographs are worth more to me because the cost to make them is more involved. Meaning, you're not just going to hit Command P on your inkjet printer and it's going to spit out. But if you do that, what I would do is try to make those things a little more premium. I would print them on very expensive paper. We're talking about the heavyweight matte paper, which is like $5 a sheet, right, Maggie? Is that how much it is? I prefer matte versus gloss. The gloss, for some reason, this is just my personal take. If you guys disagree, feel free to comment below. I like matte because it feels more like a piece of art. I don't like glossy artwork that's printed. The other thing that you can do is to add a hand-done element on top of it. Maybe do a little gold leafing or some other kind of hand embellishment, and make sure you sign and number the prints. That's going to say, I'm only going to do X number of these prints. So the value is going to go up. So the cheapest version that you can do of this is a color laser print. And some people do that. There are high-end color laser prints, and they cost $1 to make at wherever service bureau you go to. They're very inexpensive, and they sell these at the con, but they sell them for $10. So now you're making it like high volume, low scarcity, and so nobody's going to want to pay for that. Think about size. The other thing that I know it's going to sound weird for me to say, and maybe controversial for me to say, is you have to think of people's decor. Most, like me, I buy a piece of artwork because I have a home for it and I want to put it in my house. So if the colors, the patterns, and how bold and graphic it is, those kinds of things I have to consider. So a lot of people will pick a piece based on the color. That's really what it is, because it's not going to go with everything else in my room. You kind of have to think about where it's going to live.
Can you be more specific about that? Like, what kind of color are you talking about? Are you saying that we should limit the color palette, or we should be...
I just think about boldness. For example, if you do a drawing and it's very kind of line work and the colors kind of look very muted, if the person's palette is very muted, that's going to go well in their home. If you do something as bold as this card right here, that's kind of pretty shocking. And so a lot of this on a big space is going to be too much for somebody. Just think about that. I always wonder this. Whenever I go to a gallery and I see all the pieces on the wall, I tend to migrate to 2 or 3 specific pieces, and the ones that I want are almost always, and it's never happened to me otherwise, they're always sold. And I was thinking, did the artist realize these 2 pieces would be their most popular pieces? And if so, why didn't they make the other ones like that one? And I just have this theory that the artists, they make stuff and they're not sure what their audience wants. So we were talking a lot about reverse engineering things, looking at what people want and looking at what you like to make, instead of just putting a lot of stuff and bringing them to you. Basically, make your artwork towards what people want. It's almost always the case. It's the same thing that goes with if you're a musician. I hear this in interviews oftentimes. They thought the second track was their best track, and it turned out to be track 3 and 8 were the radio hits, and that's one everybody bought. Like, they don't even know. So sometimes it helps to have an artist friend, a curator, a critic, a creative director to look at your work and say, these 4 are your best work. Get rid of the other ones and build this up. Do themes, like repeat these themes. Okay? Karen, I see you smiling because what went off?
I don't know, like, which parts people like. Every time I go to a con to sell prints.
So you're guilty.
It's like a total.
You're totally guilty. You just make stuff. Because here's the other problem, and I've said this before, to be a great designer, you need empathy and imagination. So really, you're not thinking about them, you're just thinking about yourself. So you just make stuff, I feel like doing this. It doesn't really go anywhere. Sometimes it works, and then you never know why it works again. Think about what your users want, what your customers want. And sometimes, as busy as Anime Expo is, you might think about doing something different than everybody else. Because in the sea of fan art and Japanese anime characters or manga, it's all the same. For me, what stands out would be to do something very simple. If you had a big splash of color in one character, it didn't try to render it like everybody else, where everybody has these kind of Photoshop gradient paintings. Just do it more like 3 colors. Solid, bold colors. That would stand out to me. Or integrate typography. And I think I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this, but things with type, beautifully set, are always much nicer to look at, period. Like, you look at the back of a car, this bugs me. And you look at the back of the car, what do I look at? I look at the letters of the car. Like, what font did they choose? Most American cars, for some reason, I don't know who designed this, probably the industrial designer, they choose the font and the name, it looks horrible. Okay? It's like the little accents that you put on things that make it feel complete. All right, let's move on to a different question, because that question gobbled up a lot of time, and it was a 2-parter, so I feel like semi-okay about it. Give me another question, guys. All right. Aaron, do you want to throw one, or Karen, you got another one?
I got one.
Go ahead.
Okay, so how do you know if you've got bad taste?
Ooh, do you feel like you have bad taste?
She thinks I have bad taste.
No.
Oh, snap! Cat fight! All right, how do you know if you have bad taste, or what do you do if you have bad taste?
Well, I mean, all right, no. How do you know if you've got bad taste?
I don't think you know. That's
yeah,
why
I don't
you
think
have bad taste.
Oh my god! I go to Anime Expo, man. I don't know.
Okay, so what does bad taste mean? Let's look at those 2 words, bad taste. So this is a great question, and of course it's subjective, or it seems subjective, right? There are people that have great taste, Let's name some people or companies that have great taste. Apple. Okay, so I'm going to go to the board. Can we do that or no? Can we do that? It's okay. I'll do it right here. I'll do it right in front of me. Okay, so people that have good taste. James Jean. Okay, Apple. Give me 2 or 3 more. Jamie? People, company? In any area. How about a fashion label?
Nike.
Who? It's debatable. No, I'll write it down. Seriously, but keep going.
Acronym?
Superdry.
Who?
Acronym? Or
I don't know that
are you
brand.
talking about Isaura?
Iseora? Okay, you know Iseora? That's pretty very niche. Not many of our audience is going to know. Let's try and pick things that our audience might know.
Uniqlo? Superdry?
Okay. Like high fashion, guys.
I'm not that
You just stop
sophisticated.
slumming it, guys.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
You know, I think Dolce & Gabbana has really good taste. Brands like Gucci and the premium brands, Louis Vuitton, for some things, not for everything, obviously.
We wouldn't know about
Coach. A company like Rolex. It's a very sophisticated brand, okay? So let's talk about some that are bad.
Some that are bad.
So what is bad taste? Because your question was bad taste. People, oh, be careful here. But you can throw it out there. Brands, manufacturers, fashion brands, anything.
Microsoft?
Okay? Whoa.
Yeah, Apple.
The opinions
we've
of the
all seen
audience
it.
do not necessarily reflect that of Blind or myself. I'm just going to say that right now. Who else? Nobody has bad taste then. Maggie? I'll write that down. No. That's what you said. Come on, guys.
Hey.
I know Ed Hardy. Ed Hardy? Come on.
Who's Ed Hardy?
It's a fashion brand.
Jamie knows.
They do,
What else?
Like motorcycles.
Come on, guys. Brands that when you get as a gift, you're like, oh, I wish you got the other one instead.
Oh, Bath and Body Works.
Bath and, okay. Things I have a lot of familiarity with. Okay, Bath and Body Works. What else? Let me cross off all the potential clients I'm gonna get. Come on, guys. Who else? Aaron, help me out, dude.
I know, Aaron.
What about like some like Mark Echo?
Okay, I'll write that
Sun.
down.
Okay.
How about, you know what? When they're knockoff brands, the Me Too brands that are not innovative and undistinguished, what are they?
Like
Bob's.
Skechers.
Skechers.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. And there, now we got something we can agree
I
on.
think the same thing. They have their Bob's instead of Tom's or something.
Yeah, some
Bombs?
knockoff
No, like it's
stuff.
Skechers, so they have a version of Tom's.
Okay. So I wrote down some things. That's fine. Maybe we don't air this episode. Who knows? As you alienate every potential client I'm going to get.
Yeah.
So if we look at companies with supposedly good taste, how do you know they have good taste? What is it about them that you think it's good taste?
It's beautiful.
Well, that doesn't help me.
Is there like an element of like being simple?
Yes. Very good, Aaron. There's restraint. That you don't try to do everything. You don't have every single material. And you really understand materials, design, proportion, scale, and you don't try to be all things. Look at Apple. There's no extra part to this phone. And they consider every single part, including how the screws fit on the inside. Have you watched their videos? That's how considered their products are. And we know certain things like the packaging. Is the packaging glossy? Is it cheap paper? No, when you touch the package, the box, it's like this matte velvet thing. And that paper just costs more money. It has nice hand quality. Like you touch it and you feel it and it's like, this feels expensive. And they'll do a foil stamp, a silver one. And they won't foil stamp the whole thing because that's gaudy. So it's showing restraint, knowing when and where to exercise touches and flares of detail, and that makes the product feel premium. And you're going to look at the dashboard to certain European brands, and you're going to see the exact same thing. Restraint,
Does it have to be
simplicity.
premium? Does it have to be premium to be good taste, though?
No, not necessarily. Premium is a positioning thing, and the price can be separate. For example, you guys say you like really the things that Uniqlo does. And Uniqlo, is not a premium brand in the sense that it's not on the levels of Gucci or Prada or something like that, but they make really fashionable clothing that's well put together with some really incredible fabrics. And I'm saying that as an observer, but also because I know somebody that works in the industry, and they say they have the best sourcing the materials because they have this great buying power. So certain brands, you get less than what you pay for. Uniqlo is one of those brands where you get way more than what you pay for. So you can feel good about that. So their cuts are fashionable, and the great thing about it is, are they going to do anything over the top and crazy? Okay, so that's one of the things. Now, let's compare that to, say, Ed Hardy. And Ed Hardy is a brand that kind of, if you're in the Valley or it's kind of Inland Empire, it's still kind of cool because it's kind of very faux a certain culture. So it's always hilarious for me to see people in Asia kind of rocking the Ed Hardy, not knowing that it's derided in America. But that's okay. Even the guy that's behind it admits that it is what it is. He's taking advantage of a certain group of people. And it's really tattoo flash art, printed all over the place, trying to look a certain kind of thing. So I think there's a thing that we all recognize when you're pretending to be somebody you're not. You're being inauthentic, and that's where authenticity, being genuine really matter. So if you're trying to be like somebody else, it's just pretentious or it's just trying too hard. You don't see restraint there. Okay? What else? Bad taste.
Okay, so what if you're an artist? How do you know if your design has bad taste? Is it the same thing where you're applying restraint and proportion to it? Is it really just restraint? Because James Jean, his illustrations can be very elaborate.
They can be. They tend to be.
Yeah, they tend to be. So I think his work is really nice. I think a lot of people think his work's really nice. So how is it that he's applying restraint?
Okay, let's look at it. Like, I don't have my, I'm not going to do it right now. Oh, maybe I can. Am I still connected, Andrew, on my laptop?
Yeah,
Can we do that kind of stuff? I need to switch to it?
No.
Okay, I need to just share my screen, right? So let me do this. I'm going to pull up some James Jean work in a second here. Why don't you guys talk about something so I can... What do you guys think it is?
You want to go shopping?
Oh, what do I think it is?
Yeah. Why is his work ornate and complicated or complex, and yet it's still beautiful?
Good design.
Well, what does that mean, though? You can't just say, well, you defeat bad taste with good design. So let me open up this thing right here.
I think he draws really well. That's
Okay, can we see this yet?
That's the first thing I want.
Okay, here we go. Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people can draw really well. Okay? So why is this piece an interesting piece of artwork? There's restraint here too.
There's restraint in the colors.
The colors. So it's a very complex piece of artwork. And so if he's coloring every single thing in, then it becomes too much. So that's one thing. So he's using complementary colors here. So he's using art school theory here by using orange and blue to help separate things, right? And he's using various tones of blue and orange so you're not overwhelmed with it. But I think what's really beautiful, he has a simple subject matter. It's well composed in the frame. And he's integrating, I think, Japanese influences, the water element, the cloud element, the fire elements, and he's putting it in there in a very beautiful way. So it's got this west-east thing going on. And he just uses color to separate. So it starts there. Let's pull up something else. I don't know what else. Let's just try this thing. Can you guys see this thing? A little harder to see, so maybe when Aaron, you do this, you can pull up the pieces and go full frame and pan it around or something. Very complicated piece. Why does this one work?
It's one color.
It's more than one color. But it's like, it's similar tones, it's blue and purple. Right? So what I like about it is that he's got all these faces buried within the flowers. So there's kind of something to discover. And when you look at it, it's like a secondary read. And if you know his work, he tends to embed these kinds of things in it. The composition is very, very nice in terms of its organic flowing thing. The scale is good. He has big faces and small faces. So those are all things that you learn in design and illustration school. So if you have bad taste, part of it is if you're a new person to design or illustration, stay away from doing all the gimmicks or being different just to be different, because chances are that's where you're going to mess up. I see amateur logo designers, and first of all, they pick a horrible font. So for them, it's about picking some weird font I never heard of, or using Comic Sans or something like that. And then they embellish with too many tricks. When I was taught to design for a logo, just pick one trick and go with it. Meaning if you change one letter form, just make that the hero. Don't try to do too many things. It's about understanding restraint.
I think a big part of it also is making sure that you're informed so you can make the right decision.
Yeah?
Like you were just talking about choosing typefaces. And of course, someone who's not a designer, who wants to become a designer, is probably going to stick to what they have on their computer, right? Which is all system kind of default fonts. Taking like a little time to examine really well-designed typefaces, I think you would begin to identify the system ones as not as good, right?
Yeah?
So in addition to restraint, I feel like an important part is just knowing what else is out there so you can like be more informed about those decisions.
Yeah, that answer is the proper way to deal with that, but that also means you have some kind of art education, you have an ability to look at work, to see it, to process it, and to interpret it. That's a lot of skills that people don't have if you're, say, going to community college or you've not had any formal training to look at it. Some people can figure it out intuitively, but there are not that many of those people. And even students that I see who go to art school, some of the best art schools in the world, they still can't emerge and figure it out themselves because they don't have the tools to look at work in a critical way and to break it down and understand what's working. So the easiest way I think somebody can deal with this is to just pick a good font from somebody that recommended these are the 30 typefaces. And actually we've done that already. And so when somebody shows me a piece of design that they've done and already can tell it's really horrible, they just missed step one. Right? Before we break all the rules, let's just learn some of them. Let's work within certain boundaries and be creative there. Okay, I think we're going pretty long here. I think we have something like 7 or so minutes left. Aaron, you want to hit me up with one? Maybe from the internets.
From our YouTube?
Okay, our YouTubes, and tell me who it is and kind of read the question, if you will.
Okay, so we have Landon Yoh.
Great. I hope that's how you say it. Yo. Yo. Landon.
And he is asking, what is the most efficient way of tackling a design brief? And how does one start drafting their own design briefs?
Okay, so you're not asking me one question, you're asking me two, but that's cool. So what's the most efficient way of tackling a design brief? So if you channel Landon for a second, I want to ask you, what do you mean the design brief? Meaning you've been given a design brief, or how you make a design brief?
Well, I think the first part of the question is if you're given one.
Okay.
Go about dissecting it or whatever.
Okay, so for a lot of the people in our audience, they don't even know what that word design brief means, and maybe they've never even seen one. Design brief is something typically a marketing director, somebody on the advertising team may put together for you. Sometimes it's created by the internal marketing department, and it tells you exactly what the project's about. It outlines the boundaries and what they're trying to achieve. Unfortunately, this is truth be told, I've rarely come across a marketing or design brief that is helpful to me at all. It's very broad, it's generic, and my test is, if you hold this up and you put a piece of design next to it, can it be a way for us to eliminate designs? And chances are, it's not. And my theory is, some of these are written by marketing people that don't actually have a design background, and they don't have a clear picture as to what they want, and they use marketing buzzwords like organic, cool, new, fresh. That's the kind of words they use, and they have no idea what it means. It's just to cover their butt, and that's how they do it to move on. I'm holding up an invisible piece of paper, so I'm pantomiming you guys. All right? You could do some little animation for me.
Okay, so like, what
So
if
I'm
we
going to
get
throw
this
that piece of
brief?
paper away. So that's the problem. So
Yeah.
you get a marketing brief. So here's the first test. Can you simplify the marketing brief to 5 words or less? And if you can't, you're on a good path already because it means something. And then break it down to 2 or 1 words. And then use that as a decisional filter for what kind of design will work. And the way you can test this is, give me any 2 words that might come up in a marketing brief. Serious fun, thank you.
You're welcome.
Serious fun. I'm glad you said it. So, serious fun. Now we have a very clear slice. What I like to do is I like to choose 2 words that are kind of seemingly opposing each other, like they counteract one another. The reason being is there's lots of things on the serious side and there's lots of things on the fun side, but only a few things that overlap. That really narrows the goal and it makes it a lot easier to hit. So I will ask lots of questions. I will pose certain words to the clients to help them identify something and test it out. Once we have agreement, I can go away and put together a quick mood board. Now, when I say mood board, I'm going out onto Pinterest, Behance, just searching on the internet to find things that I think look like serious fun. Okay? And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to show it to the client and said, I heard you. We said serious fun. This is what serious fun looks like to me. And there's a couple of interpretations here. Let me know if we're on the right path. And you can quickly identify if you totally missed it or maybe we just chose the wrong words, then that's okay too. But you've invested a minimal amount of time. The frustration comes in when you run away without these words or no check-in with your client and you work thousands of hours and you work on something and you show it to them. Here's my masterpiece. Here's my Mona Lisa. And they said, you totally missed the boat. And you walk away really angry. And now you're looking for a vacation from your vacation job. That's the problem. Okay? All right. So if we can use words more to get quick client buy-in earlier on in the process and the design cycle, it's going to save us a lot of headache later on. And they're going to think you're a great listener, a really smart and articulate person who thinks on a much higher level versus just going out to make stuff. Slow that process down. We call that the squirrel thing, like we're ready to run, we're ready to do and make, okay? So squirrel t-shirts coming soon, you guys, I promise. Okay, the second part to that question, so I know there's two parts. How do you do it with the design brief? So you have to be able to reduce it down into a few words. Those words need to be visual. Those words need to be a filter in which you can act upon. Second part?
Second part is, if I want to start drafting my own design brief, so on the other side of it, how do you make a good one, a good brief?
Well, we just taught you about what a good brief is, so you need to step in a process to be able to get to that part with your clients. And you can use any kind of prompt or facilitation framework that you want. We have one called Core. Use any of those prompts. Ask the clients questions like the voice, the tone of the brand, what are the user benefits, who is this for, what are we celebrating, what trends are we acting on, those kinds of things, and you start to get a clearer picture. If you've done or watched any of the other episodes that we've produced about user profiles, you can see how we profile customers, and the answers come to you if you just listen. And something that Kyle Cooper shared with me once I brought one of my classes to him, and somebody asked, like, where do you get your ideas from? One of these obviously like impossible to answer questions, and he thought he gave a really great answer to it. And he had said, the problem that designers have is they just don't listen. If all you do is learn to listen, the answers will appear right before you. You don't have to make things up. If you listen to the brief, the client's objectives, you listen to the story, and you make something that is purpose-built for that project, then the answer appears. So he said a lot of people will come to a studio, they've seen Iron Man, they've seen Seven, and that's all they want to do. So it doesn't matter if it's a romantic comedy, they want to do Iron Man or they want to do Seven. And you can see like how silly that is, but that's what designers do. So romantic comedy, like there's 3D graphics, people, like that doesn't make any sense. That's what happens, so just listen, all right? All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Ask Me Anything. I think I'm over time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. All right.